Hello and welcome to Class 8 Personal Finance. My name is Garrett and I am not a financial professional, an investment professional, or anything of the sort. I'm just a do it yourself investing enthusiast. If you need professional help, you need a professional, not me. Preferably someone who is fee only and fiduciary, someone who has your interests in mind financially. Let's talk about index funds. In particular, I'm actually going to look at the ones in my own 401k. So we're going to have even more disclaimers. I am not a representative of my employer. I'm not a representative of my union. I am not even a representative of the Facebook group that's about this particular 401k plan, the UPS Teamsters 401k plan. It's just me, just my opinions. I want to look at these particular three index funds today: the S&P 500, S&P 400, and Russell 2000 index funds. These are the three U.S. funds here in the 401k plan. They're also tracked by a lot of other funds out there, so I think this will still be relevant for a lot of folks, and we'll look at some tools related to these as well. I've had it happen where I had a conversation with a colleague, and some other folks are probably doing this too, where they take these funds right here and they're like, well, I want to be diversified among these funds, so I'm going to put equal amounts in all 7 of these, whatever 100 divided by 7 happens to be. I'm not doing that math in my head right now. And certainly worse things have happened in the investing world. You could actually put equal weights in all of these and you're going to be fine. But it's better to be informed about what's actually in these things and to make better decisions than that. You can do it. So let's look at what's inside these 3 here, just focusing on the US today and not the real estate ones, just broadly across sectors. I don't recommend the REIT fund. That's another video. Let's look at the fact sheets for these funds. When you click these 3 or wherever your 401k is, you should be able to get a fact sheet. The fact sheet will tell you the name of the fund. It'll tell you the index that it's tracking, assuming that you're going for index funds, which you generally should. Really, 90% of investors should be just sticking with market cap weighted index funds. So this fund seeks to track the performance of the S&P 500 index. We can see where the sectors are, so it's got a bunch of sectors in it. We can see the top 10 securities, and we have companies that we've actually heard of: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Tesla, Alphabet. If you haven't heard of Alphabet, that's Google. It's the parent company, Google, YouTube, etc. You know it. Meta Platforms, which is Facebook, Nvidia, which is getting big because of cryptocurrency, mining in particular. Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's company, that kind of thing. You can see the investment style classification here. I'd like to zoom in there just a little bit. And you can see that this is a large cap blend fund. It's between value and growth, and it's large cap. What is that? We'll talk about it in a sec. I want to compare it with here. This is the S&P Mid Cap 400 Index Fund. Still broadly diversified among sectors. It's got these top 10 securities. Maybe you've heard of more than one of these companies. I've only heard of one until I just looked at this list. Graco. They sell car seats for babies and other baby products. So, hey, that one exists. We can see here that according to this classification, it is a mid-cap blend fund. And we have this, the Russell 2000. And those of you who are familiar already with indexes are like, why on earth did this 401k plan decide to switch index providers? Because there is, in fact, an S&P 600 small cap index. And they could have decided to track that instead, but they decided to go with the Russell 2000. I'll rant on that in just a bit. But yes, we're in the Russell 2000 here in our 401k plan. You can see small cap blend here, and you have at least one company that you've probably heard of, AMC. Yes, because of all that craze, they've actually climbed up, and they're now on top of the S&P 600, or on top of the Russell 2000, rather. Perhaps they'll be upgraded to the Russell 1000 at some point, and they'll just completely disappear here, and maybe they'll get added to one of the other S&P indexes. Maybe they're already in the 600. I don't know. You'll have to forgive the sounds of my son in the background. We'll make it work. Gonna need less noise back there. Less noise, please. Thank you. All right. I don't want to re-record this. We're just going to deal with it. So let's go over here for a moment. I'm going to talk about some tools that are available as well. This is Morningstar. And for those of you who are in my 401k, this is not to be confused with Morningstar Retirement Manager, which is kind of an advisor function. You pay 0.2% of your portfolio every year, and they give you advice and potentially manage the portfolio for you. I don't know if it's robotic or if there's a human being involved with that. This here, Morningstar.com, is the same company. However, it's just a research tool. So here's what I've pulled up. I've pulled up VTI here, which is Vanguard's Total Stock Market Index Fund. Let's talk about this for a sec. So these are actually the weights across the entire U.S. market. So you'll notice that it's not 11% in each of these boxes. Maybe it would be cool if it were, and then you could allocate that way. But that's just not the way the Morningstar Style Box works. So you have, roughly 55 plus 17, which is 72% in large cap, not 33% in large cap, and it goes down from there. Why is this important? Well, let me show you. That's the same one. Let's pull up VOO. Now, VOO is Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund, and so we can pull that up in comparison because it is equivalent to the S&P 500 fund in our 401k. You can't pull up the 401k fund in Morningstar. Your 401k probably isn't there. So you can see on the map here, it's very much a large cap blend fund, maybe a little bit of growth tilt, but not quite over the line. And then by the sector weights, you can see there's no small cap right there and a lot of large cap. If I plug in IVOO here, what do you think is going to happen? Nothing. Let's not use the URL trick here. IVOO is the S&P Mid-Cap 400 fund for Vanguard. It's also a low-cost index fund, but it's targeting that mid-cap sector. It's not a broad U.S. fund. What we're really interested in, besides all that stuff, is the portfolio. So you pull up the portfolio tab here, and you get this style box here. And when I was recording this earlier, a quick note. I have my volume level on the screen here because my microphone keeps going out, and I keep having to re-record this. And unlike noises from my son in the background, if my mic goes out, then it's completely ruined. So I'm just leaving it up there, and if it pauses, then I'll at least notice. So you have this right here, and it's not quite in the middle, even though it's a mid-cap fund. You look at the weights. I like looking at the percentages. I think it's a lot more useful. And you can see it's actually quite small cap heavy according to Morningstar's definition of small cap. And in fact, different folks have different definitions of what large cap, mid cap, and small cap are. I'm just going with the Morningstar one because it's easy to find and it's a free tool. Morningstar does have a paid subscription if you want some additional things on the website. I think it's way too expensive for average investors. Figure out your portfolio once. You can use the 14-day free trial if you want to play around with it, and then cancel the trial and use the free tools because you just don't need to pay for that all year. That's just way too much. So you have IVOO here. That's the mid-cap fund. Let's look at the small-cap fund. We're going to go with the Russell 2000, and I'm not going to use the URL trick. This one is VTWO V2. There is a V1, VONE. That's the Vanguard Russell 1000. but I'm not looking at that today. I'm going to click over to the portfolio. Portfolio. Test. All right, microphone's still there. The volume level is low when I'm not talking. And you can see that this little blue button here is even lower than what we had for the mid-cap fund. So yes, there is some correlation there. And note, the Russell 2000 is hardly any in the Morningstar mid-cap definition. It's a small cap fund. Now, why am I pointing this out? Well, if you were like my colleague who was like, hey, I'm going to put equal weights in these three funds or these different funds, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to plug in, I have some remnants from the previous recording session here. I'm going to plug in equal amounts here. I'm going to say, you don't have to put percentages here, because it's holding value. So I'm just putting $100, just so it's not, one. So we're going to put equal weights in these three, the 500, the S&P 500, the S&P 400, and the Russell 2000, and we're going to see how that looks. By the way, this tool is called Morningstar Instant X-RAY. You can see the URL right there, and it requires you to establish a login on the site. However, the login is free. You don't have to establish the free trial or submit a credit card or anything like that in order to use the tool. You just have to establish a login. It's fair. And you can see this Morningstar Style Box with the valuation right there. And it looks a little different because this is the X-ray tool. And so it gives you some figures about, hey, okay, this is all within North America. Okay, here's the stock sectors compared to the S&P 500, so it's going to be a little off and all that. But you look at this Morningstar Style Box, and let's compare that with VTI. And I took a screenshot here so we can kind of put them nice and side by side. 7813 on the large side, 172035 on VTI, the total stock market. So this is a reflection of the total US stock market. And this is a reflection of what happened when we put 1/3 in each of those US funds. They're not 1/3 of the market relatively. 8 plus 7 is 15. 15 plus 13 is 28. 28 versus, can I get that window back? No. Oh, did I get it? There it is. Those basically aren't the same thing. Let me illuminate this a little bit. So here's a diagram of Vanguard funds. In fact, I can go, do I want to do this one? Let's do this one for now. So here's a bar chart that Vanguard used to put out. I haven't found it on the website. I actually pulled this one off of Reddit, of all places. But you have the S&P 500 index in this little box right here. And it kind of fools the eye because the y-axis here is the number of stocks in the index. It is not the actual market capitalization or the company value or how much money is actually there, how much company value is actually there. So this right here has a little number here and it says 82% market cap. Probably newer numbers right now, but it's going to be close enough for us. You have the mid-cap 400 index over here, which is only 7%. So if you made these equal weight, then you're putting a lot more proportionally with these companies than you are with these companies over here in proportion to their market capitalization. And then you have the Russell 2000, and again, our 401k decided to switch index providers for whatever reason, and this is 8% of the world's market cap. And if you put 1/3 in there, you would have 1/3 here, 1/3 here, 1/3 here. So you'd be putting 1/3 into a group of companies that's only 7% of the market. 1/3 into a group of companies that's 8% of the market. And 1/3 into a group of companies that's 82% of the market. Now, you can do that, but if you didn't know you were doing that, then that's an issue. If you know you're doing that and you have a reason for it because, hey, I like small cap companies, I like mid cap companies, I've done my research and I'm convinced that it's going to do better and I'm willing to take the risk and all that. Okay, great. Let's say that we wanted to just replicate the whole market. Let's try to replicate VTI because that's a popular fund, the most popular fund, really. And it represents basically the average US investor. Let's just try to replicate that. One way to do that is, let's go back to editing the holdings here on the X-ray. Here's one way to do that. 80 for VOO, 10 and 10. Nice round numbers. I've used this in the past. Show instant X-ray. And we can see here, if I can pull up the other number, there it is. I don't know why it's like Windows confuses me. But in any event, so you look at the valuation comparison here, 16, 19, 32, 17, 20, 35. Not worth stressing. Little tiny differences like that. 593, 595, 574, 342. Hey, you're good. So 80, 10, 10 did the job of replicating the total stock market by proportion to market capitalization. And if you need to modify your sauce from there and tilt towards small caps or something because you're convinced of that, that's going to be another video. Small cap and value and all that. So be it. I happen to tilt very heavily towards small cap value. I have reasons, and I've done the research. But if you don't know, then you need to know what's going on. That's what I'm saying. Here's another way. You could completely eliminate a fund from your portfolio because simplicity is better, right? You could completely eliminate this, and here's what I generally say. Here's what I generally say, actually. Within our 401k, I usually say 45%, 15%, 40%. I just don't happen to be talking about international today, so I'm going to take this out in a moment. And it's going to throw all the numbers off because the international side has their own figures. But 45, 15, 40 is usually what I recommend within our UPS Teamsters 401k. So let's just take out the international side because what we're really trying to do here is to replicate the US market. So I'm going to show an instant X-ray with just 45.15, which percentage-wise is 75.25. Okay, now let's compare this valuation with what we had in the total stock market fund. 15, 18, 30, 17, 20, 35. 6, 11, 4, 5, 9, 5, 5, 7, 3, 3, 4, 2. Little percentage differences that just aren't going to do anything bad to you in the end. So why even have an entire fund right there when the difference is so small? Here's another issue I have with the Russell 2000. Russell 2000 has problems. Here's an article from a Morningstar author. I'm not going to try to pronounce that name. You can do better than the Russell 2000. Other U.S. small cap indexes are worth considering. There are multiple U.S. small cap indexes. They just don't happen to be in our 401k. They may or may not be in your 401k if you're not in our little group. So here's the Russell 2000. It's a very popular small cap index. Total return over the trailing 10 years, 11.13. CRISP, U.S. small cap, which is the index that the Vanguard fund tracks, is 12.21. I suspect a lot of this happens to do with that this fund isn't as small cap as the Russell 2000. So there's an exposure issue there in terms of market capitalization. And large cap over the last 10 years has outperformed small cap. So if your small cap index is larger than the other small cap index, then you're going to do better. So doesn't necessarily mean that this is a superior small cap index. But in the case of the S&P 600, S&P small cap 600, there is also a quality screen going on. Let me show you this one. Wall Street Journal article that popped up. I read the Wall Street Journal every day, so this I wasn't even looking for this one, but this popped up back in January. Investors lose appetite for stocks of unprofitable companies. The Russell 2000 index of small companies has fallen 18% since its record close in November. Almost a third of the index is made up of companies with no profit. So when you're talking about screening out companies, and there's an author named Larry Sweater who talks about lottery stocks within the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 just isn't a good index to invest in for small caps. And so that's why I've been saying, hey, just take the Russell 2000 out and use the S&P 500 and the S&P 400 within that 401k context. And then if you want to tilt the small caps, if you want to tilt the value, and you've done your research on that, then you can modify your portfolio and you can use a Roth IRA in order to do those tilts while you have these core funds, the S&P 500 and the S&P 400 in your 401k, and you don't have to make anything too complicated. All right, I think that's the video. So keep in mind Morningstar as a tool for you, especially the Instant X-Ray, because once you figure out trying to combine your 401k with a Roth IRA, for example, you can plug in, once you know the tickers that equate with your 401k, you can add other things in here and then get a total view of what your portfolio looks like. So don't discount the tools that are out there. If you need to contact me on the YouTube channel, Class 8 Personal Finance. Thank you much, and have a good one. We have theme music.